How do you know if your milk supply just is what it is or if it's still possible to increase it? How do you know when it's time to stop, quit pumping altogether? That's what we're going to talk about today. By the end of this video, you will better understand how milk supply works, if it's possible to save yours, and the next steps in getting there. If you're new here, my name is Allison Tolman. I'm a breast pump expert and a coach for pumping working moms. We've actually helped hundreds of working moms fully understand their unique milk supply and how to predictably move it up and down using a breast pump. If you want the best chance at success here, it's likely working alongside a professional long term. So this is what we do inside of our coaching program. If that is what you're looking for and you want more information, there's a link down below in the description. You can schedule a free discovery call with my team. They can walk you through it and see if your milk supply is able to be saved. It's kind of what we're talking about today. Tell me if you've ever thought or said any of these things, okay? I'm going to number them so you can put a comment down below on the ones that resonate most with you, okay? 1, I feel like I'm constantly pumping and my milk supply is not increasing. 2, it's so defeating to see such a small amount of milk after all of that effort. 3, I know there's milk there, I just can't pump it out. 4, I'm so frustrated that my body isn't producing enough milk to meet my baby's needs. 5, I'm exhausted from trying to boost my milk supply with no success. 6, I feel like I'm failing at breastfeeding because I can't pump enough. 7, it's frustrating to see other moms with abundant milk supplies while I struggle to even pump enough. 8, I feel like I don't really know if I'm doing this correctly. 9, it feels like I've tried everything on the internet with no real results. 10, I feel like my body is broken and I'll never be able to make enough milk. 11, I've already seen multiple lactation consultants and I'm losing faith that they can help me with pumping. 12, I'm starting to wonder if it's time to give up and switch to formula. Do any of those stick out to you? Comment down below with the number or numbers. These are actual statements that I've heard from real moms. So if you're here on this video, I'm assuming some of those are maybe things you've said before, but let me know down below and let me know what you're struggling with. So let's start with milk production. I think the first question we need to address is how often does it actually happen that you cannot make breast milk? All right. I hesitate to give you an actual statistic here because the research is so varied. And even if you do a quick Google search, you'll realize that it's all over the place. Okay. But from what I could pull together and kind of make sense of, it's somewhere between 5 and 15% of mothers that have true low milk supply from a medical condition like that. When you start adding poor infant feeding skills on top of that, the number gets higher. When you add on ineffective pumping, the number gets higher again. And when you look at perceived low milk supply, so not an actual low milk supply, but the mother thinks that it's low, the number shoots up to above 80% sometimes. 80% of moms thinking they have low milk supply is just crazy, you know? I know this is one of the most common concerns, and I think we're seeing it more often now that we're seeing pumping being part of the experience as well, because we still don't have all the answers for infant feeding, and now we're trying to add on a completely different skill set of pumping, and we're seeing mixed results, and there's not a lot of consistent help, and so it's just low milk supply is happening more often. But I would say determining if you have low milk supply and how to fix it is complex, okay? And I'll do another video on that topic, figuring out if you actually have low milk supply or if it's kind of just a perceived low milk supply. But working with a professional who can dive into your unique situation and give you a customized plan is really your best bet. The point I want you to take away from here, though, is that the scenario, I am incapable of making enough milk, like my body will not do it, only happens as low as 5% of the time. And I would say it's far less than 1% that a woman is unable to make any breast milk at all. And why that matters is that all or nothing thinking here can be really detrimental. Just because you can't or aren't making 100% of your baby's milk needs does not mean that the only other option is to quit. Okay? It also doesn't mean, however, that you should hang on for dear life and struggle through dragging your tired, broken body and spirit across the finish line of your goal. Okay? That's not necessarily true either. So I want to say it doesn't happen very often that you actually can't make milk. And it's not that common either that you're not capable of making enough to feed your baby, right? It does happen and it's out there, and again, varying statistics. But for the most part, you can probably do this if you have the right help and the right situation. Now, stuff happens, okay? And there are things that you're dealt that you weren't expecting, complications at birth, or an infant with some health concerns or lip ties or things like that, or life that happens that kind of takes away from your goals. Like, there are more things than just simply medical conditions that contribute to low milk supply, right? Because we're human and life is unpredictable and things happen. And a lot of times it's out of your control. The next thing I want to talk about is how low of a milk supply is too low to save. Okay. And I think we get this question pretty often on the discovery calls that we do with people that have applied to our coaching program is this even possible for me? Which is a very valid question. Why would you want to invest in long-term coaching support or put in all this extra effort if it's not even feasible for you? There is a point where supply is so low and has been there for a while that we start talking more about relactation, right? And that is usually when you're pumping like 0 to 5 ounces in 24 hours, okay? Especially if it's been that way for a really long time. Now we're kind of doing relactation. Now, to be clear, on another point, there is also a difference between low milk supply and low pumping output. We actually have another video on the channel that I'll put down in the description and up top for you to watch on that one, because those are not the same things, okay? For example, if you're constantly breastfeeding and then pumping on top of that, and you're pumping really small quantities, it might just mean that your supply is perfect for your baby and that we would kind of expect low pumping output in that case. Does that make sense? Also, if you are, exclusively pumping, or if you're pumping to replace a feed and you're getting low output, it might be that the milk is there, we're just not getting it out. Okay, I'm going to send you that other video to kind of talk more about that. But if you are exclusively pumping and getting less than 5 ounces or 150 milliliters per day, then it starts getting tricky. Obviously, 0 ounces per day, you're talking about relactation, okay? And there's another video on that topic as well, which I'll put down there for you, but can you save your milk supply? All right. There are many factors here, but the 3 main ones are: the longer your milk supply has been low, the harder it is to increase. All right. So getting help as soon as possible, sooner than later, is always a good idea. If you've had a full supply previously, it's easier to get back. All right. So if you started your journey at the bottom and we've never really had a full supply, that's gonna be harder, especially if you're working towards 100%, which I just want to be clear again, you don't necessarily have to work toward 100%. Some breast milk is better than none, okay? But if you did have a full supply previously, it's a little bit easier to adjust that. And then third, do you have an effective way to remove milk? And this could be a baby or a breast pump, all right? Just because you have those things doesn't mean it's that we're using it effectively either. I know it's so complex, but I totally understand that it's really hard to find pumping help. So how do we decide when it's time to quit? And I don't really like the word quit because I feel like it kind of takes away from all of the effort and work that you've put into this previously. So we actually try not to say that word inside of our coaching program, but how do you decide when enough is enough and when it's time to be done pumping? Okay. There's a few factors here. There's a lot of factors, to be honest. And there's not a ton of research on this topic. And the research that there is kind of in the first few weeks postpartum. So it can be complicated when you've been doing this for a while and trying to decide, do I need to be done? So just from mine, and I actually consulted my team here as well, just our anecdotal experience here, here's a few things to consider. If you're less than 12 weeks postpartum, it is likely that you can increase your supply if you're still underproducing, okay? The closer you are to birth, your hormones are helping you out a little bit, which you can use to your advantage. There's another video on the channel on the 6 to 12 week milk regulation, which will help you understand that concept a little bit better. But the closer you are to birth, the easier it usually is to increase that. If you got past that 4 to 6 week postpartum period and you were making enough and now for some reason you're not, it's also likely possible that we can get that supply back to where it needs to be. If you had a situation where you didn't pump or nurse for a period of time and your supply dropped, that's also an easier situation to get the supply back up, kind of just implementing the right things for you. So those are some of the common scenarios we see. Here's a few situations where increasing your supply may be tricky or not even possible, okay? If you had breast surgery that impacted the nerves in your nipples, not everyone who has breast surgery experiences this, but the longer it's been, the better, right? So the longer it's been settled, it's a little bit better. But you probably have diminished sensation in the breast, nipples. It's really hard to know what was cut, particularly with breast reductions. We tend to see a harder time making that full supply just because things were cut. Again, it depends on the type of surgery that you had, but that can be a little tricky. Breast implants, we don't see as much problem with. You just have to be a little bit more intentional with what you do, but actual surgery on the breast can make things tricky. If you lost copious amounts of blood during delivery that resulted in Sheehan syndrome, and I probably am not saying that right. It's not a very common syndrome, but it can significantly affect milk production. Again, blood loss during delivery is probably going to affect when your milk really transitions in the beginning, but that doesn't mean it'll be that hard forever. But if you did develop a specific syndrome, it can be really, really difficult. And you're also dealing with a really complicated delivery situation, so it kind of just becomes a perfect storm for milk supply problems that can be tricky to fix. Also, if you have a hormonal imbalance that is unregulated. So this might be from your thyroid or PCOS. And I hate to even say specific things because I don't want you to get it in your head. I have PCOS, I can't make enough milk, because I'm definitely not saying that. There is such a wide range of this. But if you have some underlying health conditions like that, diabetes can do some weird stuff to your hormones too. Again, it's 100% possible. And we've supported many clients with all of these conditions, but just kind of depending on the severity there, whether it's diagnosed, undiagnosed, it can be more tricky to manage the milk supply in those cases. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list of all situations, and that's because there are thousands, if not millions, of possible scenarios that occurred that impact your milk supply, which I know is probably comforting and not that comforting at the same time. But when that is true, we need to look at a lot of other things to determine when is the right time to stop focusing on milk supply. All right. First and foremost is your well-being. All right. If the focus on milk production is impacting your ability and you are not mentally or emotionally okay or managing that very well, it might be time to make a change. All right. I have talked with women before, though, who, as we're kind of diving into where they're at and if this is possible, mentioned that it would be almost harder mentally to stop doing this and to stop giving breast milk and to, again, I don't want to say give up, but kind of end this part of the journey than dealing with stuff right now. And that is a really good indicator that you need some help to figure this out and keep going, right? But there is always that point where the juice is not worth the squeeze. Is that appropriate in this conversation? I don't know. But you matter and your mental health matters. And I will say that motherhood is hard no matter how you choose to feed your baby. But pumping and breastfeeding, especially when it's not going well and especially when you don't have the help that you need, can make it very challenging. Another scenario where you may consider your options is if you're fighting for your milk supply because you think you should, not because it's what you actually want. I'm here to tell you that good moms feed formula and good moms feed breast milk. Good moms do both. It doesn't affect your quality of motherhood. You get to pick your path. And I know that sometimes when we have unexplained low supply, it can be hard when that path is chosen for you. And that is something that I feel really passionately about avoiding, and a big reason why I like to work with moms long term and help them get control of their experience. I hate it when you have to end your journey because things are not working well, because you don't understand what's going on, because your milk supply is low and you can't figure it out. I hate that. I want you to be able to choose when and where you stop this. And I want it to be an intentional, informed choice for you. Another scenario where it may be time to end is if you don't have the support you need, okay? And this is a big one. Statistically, one of the biggest influencing factors on a mother meeting her breastfeeding goals is how much support she has. If you feel like you're doing the job of 10 people, it might be because you are. And that is not sustainable, particularly for working moms. I think we have this expectation that we're going to jump back into work and be able to function at the same level while also doing this other thing. And it's just not the case. Now you have 2 jobs, and stepping into that new normal of a person can be hard for you. It can also be hard for others around you who may be used to all of the things that you were doing, which is probably a lot because especially working moms do a lot. So sometimes we have to have hard conversations and say, do I need to adjust my expectations here for myself and for what I want and which things am I willing to sacrifice. That might be breast milk, breast pumping, but it also might not. It is okay to make a change if you want to. But I also want to really stress in this conversation that I don't want you to make a decision out of fear or out of a place of unknown, that you don't understand what's happening. It's not working. Your supply goes down, and you end your experience in a place of defeat and failure. Okay? I don't want that for you. So find the help and support you need. If you are a high-achieving, career-driven woman who is pumping at work, that's who we help, and we help them really, really good. We've had over 250 moms through our program now at the time that I'm filming this, and we have had wild success. There's a whole other channel actually talking about their stories and their experiences and what they found when they found the right kind of support. I know it can be hard to make a big investment in coaching like this because I'm not really functioning like a lactation consultant. We're not doing one-on-one visits. We have a much better program specifically for long-term. Like, I want to work with you for as long as it takes, and I don't want you to feel pressure to get it right. You're going to have more questions. I know you probably have a lot of questions right now. And if that's the type of support that you're looking for from someone who specializes in pumping, let me know. There's an application, like I said, down below. But deciding if your milk supply can be saved is hard, right? And we don't ever have all the information. Sometimes hindsight is 20/20. Sometimes we do it better the second time around. We do work with quite a few second, third, fourth time moms who just struggled before and are done with that, who want more control in their experience. And I get it. Those are some of my favorite to work with. Moms that are committed, moms that want control and want to understand their own bodies. And I think it makes it such an easier decision. Not that it's easy, but making a decision to stop pumping or stop breastfeeding from a place of understanding and an informed place where you're in control, where you're like, this is what I want. This is the best thing for our family or for my current situation, what I was handed. That feels good. And that to me is the difference between enjoying this journey and really resenting it and feeling guilty about it and looking back on it with feelings of failure. It can all be in the process of the choices that you make. So again, if I can help with support, let me know. But I hope you have a better understanding of, as you watch this video, kind of thinking through your milk supply. Do any of these factors apply to you? Is your milk supply worth saving? If you want to chat through it with me and my team, you're really committed to this and you're not quite sure, we can do that on a free discovery call. It's easy. And we do that all day long. We love talking to working moms who are committed to this. So we're happy to walk you through that and give you some honest feedback on whether or not this is for you. Or if it's not possible, or if it's going to be really unrealistic, we will tell you, because we don't want you to invest your money. It's not fun for us either to work with someone who walking in, we knew it was not going to work. So we never do that. But I hope you had some aha moments in this video. Comment down below and let me know what came up for you. What are you struggling with? Do you need help? And we'll do the best we can to get you the help you need. Good luck to you and happy pumping.